All right, athletic performance contextualization time. I'm filming this on Saturday, 27 January 2024. I'm Tanis Coralee Leonhardi. This is my YouTube channel, Tanis Leonhardi, and this is going to be an athletic performance contextualization for one of my swims. So it's my take on the Tanis Leonhardi 100-yard breaststroke, 1 minute 19.69 seconds, 15 October 2009. Here I talk through the Tanis Leonhardi, me, she, her, hers, a 100-yard breaststroke race at the 2009 Kamiak High School versus Shorewood High School dual meet in Shoreline, Washington State, United States of America. Time of 1 minute and 19.69 seconds in the final, which we only had the final, on Thursday, 15 October 2009. With my time, I achieved first place. I provide my take/perspective on the performance and contextualize it in terms of press coverage of the result in local newspaper, the Seattle Times. Yes, I'm a Seattle child, so for me, as a city kid, the Seattle Times is local. Okay, and so, boom, mic drop. Okay, so that was kind of cool that it was covered by my hometown. And Shoreline is northern suburbs of Seattle. It was actually the property of Seattle, and then it became its own city, but it's still part of Seattle on some things. Okay, so let's go provide my take on /perspective. So it's my race. I'm competing for, it was my fourth of 4 years for my high school swim team and girls swim and dive team. And we had a dual meet against Kamiak. Some people viewed Kamiak as rivals. I liked Kamiak personally, and I adored their pool. I liked our pool too. I adored our pool too. Okay. Point being, I didn't have that necessarily kind of hostility mindset. And it was a really weird race because some of the people who, or at least one of the people who swam breaststroke, who was going on to compete NCAA Division I, was off touring or making decisions related to that, if I'm recalling correctly. So they weren't there. And so I was bumped into first position for my team in varsity, like fastest seed. And I was coming in off a string of like 1 minute and 20 second times for the 100-yard breaststroke. And the person coming in as their number one, Kamiak High School's number one, was coming in off a string of 1 minute and 16 and 1 minute and 17 seconds performances. So I was like, well, here's a race I'm gonna lose. And it was really weird. So I was a team captain, and I was on good terms with people. I swam both junior varsity and varsity, and everybody was just kind of like, what do you even say to Tanis? Right? Like, what did they say to me? We were all kind of like, woo! Like, nobody was like entirely excited about it, and they were like, what do we really say? You know, kind of thing. Like, good luck, but like, eh. And even my coach was like, just go for it, right? Like, I mean, I remember being like, thank God I'm a runner and with myself as coach. So I started in January 2006 running with myself as coach, and I dropped a bunch of time in running. So this was and I competed for Shorewood High School in track and field in 2007. And in 2007, what happened, so this is my perspective on the race, so, and how I prepared for it and kind of stuff. In track and field, I ran the 800 meters outdoor track race, and I was always last or second to last for Shorewood High School. So if I learned at any point in my life how to lose a race with dignity, it was in track and field. Outdoor track, 800 meters. And so I was like, you know what? Shit, I'm not going to win this race. We all don't quite know what to say because there's like there's like good 3-4 seconds there, right? Difference in seed time. There's like, it's a lost cause, and we're all kind of like, yeah. But we can go for second and third with our swimmers, you know? We're like, they're gonna get first place, and let's just go for second and third. And so I'm like thinking about the race, and I'm like, I cannot believe I am about to be my own coach in swimming like I was and am in running. And I can't believe I'm about to prepare for this race as I did when I competed in track and field for Shorewood High School. I'm going to approach this race as I'm losing this race with dignity. And so I was like, all right, don't be embarrassed. It's okay. Just do a solid time. So I was like, okay, so they go 116s, 117s. Looks matter on paper for swimming. So if I've been doing a 120s, maybe I can drop a little time, do a 119. Right? That way, they might go faster than their personal best or their string of 116s, 117s. 120 was not my personal best. But they were like, so like, but our strings, right? So, as in like multiple performances in a row around a certain time. So she was 116, 117, I was 120, and was like, if I bring it down to 119, she could drop significant time. She could swim about the same, add a second or two, and she's still faster than me, but at least I'm in the 1-teens. Right? So my approach to losing with dignity was I'm going to target a 119 something. And that way, you know, somebody else on my team could win, right? They could drop a bunt, go in, drop like 5 seconds and win the race, right? But for me, my approach is losing with dignity, and I'm going to target a 119 time. And so we get up behind the blocks, and, you know, like it was a really weird race because all 3 of us, so there were 3 from my team, 3 from the other team, we like went up and we were all there, and like the timers, it was at Shoreline pool, and so like the timers were like kind of like not our timers, because I think the other schools would bring, but like they were volunteer timers kind of thing. And like it was my 4th year on the team. Some of the people knew me from high school or elsewhere, and they were kind of like, you know, go for it. But like we were all, there was a little bit of like defeated morale amongst our team already. And so we get up to the block, and I'm just like, this is about not being embarrassed. So we dive in, you know, start the race, dive in, finish, and it is a flight to the finish. Like, there was her and we touched about the same time. So I didn't know if I'd won or not. It was just like, and even in the water, right? I don't turn to the side when I breathe on breaststroke. I just like keep going like this. But you know, it's also at the same point, if I'm going like this, I can see that there's not somebody 3 seconds ahead of me in the lane next to me when I'm coming into the finish wall. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. Go for 119. So right, like I could have sprinted ahead on the end, but I didn't. I'm not necessarily like the sprint to the finish swimmer or like closer. So I was like, maintain, 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 right? Like, don't go all out and have an asthma attack, which had happened in races before. I would add like a second or two, and if I had an asthma attack. So I was just like, maintain at all costs, maintain. And she went a 119.9, and I went like a 119.6. And we got out of the pool, and she looked so embarrassed. And the timer, if there's one race in my entire swimming career under which spanned 1990s to 2010, like 1999 to 2010, where I have experienced the most scrutiny, it was that. They did the times, and they looked, every stopwatch was checked multiple times, averages were calculated multiple times. It was like, poof, it was like a war zone. I've never, aside from that race, felt the amount of like on edge. It was not like a victory win. It was like a insane amount of nerves just burst with everybody on the pool deck. And it wasn't an upset win. An upset win is like where somebody wins who wasn't supposed to win, and it was not that whatsoever, which is saying something because like the difference is there, and we were all kind of defeated. It was like a defeated win to a win where it was close enough that like the high that can come from winning a race never came, and to date has not come. Right? And I think in part where this gets, so that's the perspective and take on this race. And I went to her afterwards, and I was like, part of my losing with dignity was good sportsmanship. And so I went over and I was like, good job. And she was like, good job. You can tell she was like embarrassed, and so it was very much like, yeah, she's having a bad day, right? Don't do anything, right? She's not upset. She's just, I could imagine there's a fair amount of self-frustration there, right? So making sure to try and be on good terms with the person. So that's kind of how that happened. At the time I was given at the blocks, and that was crunched and averaged and that kind of stuff, was a 1:19:69. Then this entire meet, not just this result, but this result was covered. The Seattle Times and the Everett Herald, or the Herald News, or whatever it is that comes out of Everett, they would publish swimming results sometimes, like the first place finishers in each dual meet. So you only got in the paper if you won the race. So I won the race. So T. Leonhardi was in there in the 100-yard breaststroke, but they got the time wrong. They misprinted it as 1 minute 19.89 seconds, and I was like, the second place finisher went a 1:19.9 something. It does neither person justice getting that wrong when it's that close to the race. And I have no idea if it was, so somewhere between where the times were collected and calculated and the publishing in the Seattle Times, something, some mistake got introduced, be it a typographical error or an error in somebody in the chain of command reporting the time getting it wrong. I don't know where it went wrong, just that it did go wrong. And it doesn't, in a sense, it doesn't matter because it's still faster than the second place time, but the time is not right as printed in the Seattle Times. And the URL for the article still works and stuff like that, for the Seattle Times article. But yeah, so it was an interesting one. In hindsight, it was just kind of like, it was like a race from hell a bit, in terms of like resurrecting my running career and invoking myself as coach, because my coach didn't really give me any direction on what to do. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna be my own coach on this race. And it didn't feel like a win, even though it was. And in part, I think it was everybody was on edge, right? Not just the other swimmers and I. It was everybody on the pool deck. It was the only person who was like really or people were like the coaches of my team. They were like, you won! And I was like, I'm still on edge. It's now, what? It's over 14 years later and I'm still on edge about this race. Like, these are the, and so it kind of felt like a race from hell. And like, in every step of the way, things were like on edge or kind of when is not anticipated, including the publishing of the time in the Seattle Times as something it was not. So I was just kind of like, I'm happy to be in my 4th of 4 years in high school swimming. That's all I'm gonna say. And then I've done much better in road running and stuff. But yeah, it was a different race. And it was a unique, now and having written and published about swimming at a higher level, is a unique race in that being a defeat victor, like the person who wins, the victor, but coming in as sure to lose, is very different than an upset victory. Because an upset victory comes from somebody who had potential to win in the first place, whereas I didn't have that. So it's there's different ways to win when unexpected, and mine was very different than an upset win. So it's something I've heeded in reading, headlines about this so-and-so, this was an upset win, and I was like, just because an expected person does not win a race does not mean it's an upset win. But the people writing might not have ever encountered or raced, or more importantly, raced a race that I have raced, this race, or this kind of race, kind of thing. Yeah. So that's a bit about me and the 100-yard breaststroke. I swam on 15 October 2009 in a dual meet with a time of 1:19.69 that won it, but didn't necessarily feel like it. Happy day and time of viewing to you when I'm reviewing this. Happy place of viewing, wherever I'm reviewing this from. I'm filming it in the city of Shoreline, same city in which the northern suburbs of Seattle, more broadly, in which I raced this race. I'm filming it Saturday, 27 January 2024.